guys, Ernie Neal with the DogFace Knife Company and the Survivalist Mindset channel. Today we're going to be finishing up a new design that I've just started using, and I'm not going to let you see it just yet until it's done. But let's talk about what we're going to do. I have cut multicam G10, and I'm going to do it like a bolster. Behind here there's going to be brown canvas micarta with a black G10 layer between the micarta and the scale, like a liner. Anyhow, this one's already epoxied in place with a stainless pin. I've already gotten that far before I decided to turn the camera on. But as I was looking at the bottom part of this scale, what I have decided to do was I'll take dark brown canvas micarta with a black liner that's already epoxied together, and they're going to fit up on there like so. And as you notice, I have 3 holes drilled back here. In the first 2 I was going to put just all stainless pins, and then I had a really good idea, or at least I think it was a good idea. I am going to take and I'm going to leave the last hole with a blank tube, 1/4 inch brass tube. Leave you guys with a lanyard hole. In the other 2 holes, what the plan is I'm going to take a 1/4 inch brass tube and then a 7/16 brass tube inside of one another, just like so, and then a 3/16 stainless rod inside of that. And what I hope to accomplish once this is all sanded and polished up is I want to make this kind of look like a primer on the back of a casing. Brass around with a stainless looking primer, kind of give it a bullet look. Anyhow, I'll let you kind of watch throughout the day. This project will probably end up going into tomorrow, to be honest with you, but not a problem. I'll just turn the camera back on. This is my new blade. Like I said, I'm not going to reveal it until we're all done. The reason the tape is on there is to prevent damage to the blade, I don't want to have to go back and resand and repolish anything. But once this is all said and done, we'll reveal the thing. It is quite a chunk. It's got really, really thick stock. Not quite 1/4 inch, just shy of 1/4 inch thick. AUS 8 stainless steel. Some jimping on the back. You're going to have your regular hand grooves, and then you'll be able to choke up and use the jimping. And you'll see when I'm all said and done how this thing turns out. But just to kind of put it in perspective for you real quick, here is a grunt that needs to be finished up. And if any of you are familiar with the grunt, it's a chunk. This is a much bigger chunk, as you can see. Anyhow, stay tuned. I will continue to make this knife, and I'll just kind of let the camera run throughout the day. Probably be a lot of fast forwarding, things of that nature. But let me know what you guys think. Stay with me now. Alright guys, what I've done is I have taken some alcohol and some Q-tips, and I have just cleaned this out inside of each one of these tubes to make sure there's no residue, oil, gunk, anything that might keep this from making a good adhesion. And now I'm just going back through with a clean, dry Q-tip, making sure it's good and dry and there's no alcohol left in there. So that way everything sticks up nice. We need to mix our epoxy. I use different epoxies for different things. I've found some things work better than others for different applications. This is a Loctite brand 5-minute epoxy, and it means it sets up pretty quick. A little less hardener and a little more resin gives you just a little bit longer, but it sets up real quick, but it makes a nice bond. We don't need a whole lot for what we're doing here. Basically we're kind of halfway making a mosaic pin, if you're familiar with those, but rather than trying to have it come out looking flowery or with a cross or something like this, we just want these things to kind of look like bullet, or a casing rather. I don't know how well it's going to work. This will be the first time I've tried to make one look like this, but I have seen them before, and I think that they look pretty neat. Behind the camera here, I might show you guys, either in this video, or probably not this video, probably another one, but there is a chunk of micarta setting up over there. I made a micarta press, and I have been making my own micarta, primarily because I don't like to rely on a store or an online supplier to get stuff to me in the event that I can't get stuff to me. I really wanted to know how to do every facet of making these from start to end, and have a way of doing that, myself, without having to rely on if the post office guy is making his rounds this day or not. Alright, we got those set up. We'll let them cure for just a moment. Since I mentioned it, I guess I'll give you all a quick peek into this contraption. This is my micarta press, and I know it looks crazy right now. It's kind of hard to probably understand what's happening unless you're familiar with this process. But I have made a micarta press, and there's a chunk of micarta in it right now. And maybe I'll do a video and show you guys all the ins and outs of this thing, but it actually works pretty well. All right, stay with me, man. We gotta drill holes for the bottom part of our handle, and we'll do that, and we'll just use a plain piece of brass rod as a spacer, just to make sure the holes are right, and hopefully by then our tubes will be dry and we can start mocking this thing up. Okay everybody, here's a look at the knife we've been working on these past couple days. This is going to be a new model in my lineup. It's going to be called the DRB, the Deployment Readiness Blade. And it doesn't really matter if you're deploying with the military, or if you're deploying on a camping trip, or if you're deploying to bug out. This knife should be ready to take care of your needs. Get a nice look at the blade. Now this knife in particular, being the first one I've made, I decided to play around with it, and as you can see, it's got a G10 multicam bolster, and then it's got just plain brown micarta scales behind it. This blade is darn near a 1/4 inch thick at the spine. You have a couple of different hold options. You can hold it further down like this, and it'd be a good chopper. You can come up to the first finger groove and use the thumb ramp and have relatively good motion for cutting and slicing tasks. Or you can come clear up to the finger choil, which is a lot bigger than a lot of knives that I've purchased. That's one gripe I have a lot, is the finger choil is almost too small to be useful, and you wind up cutting your finger, or the potential to cut your finger. This finger choil is plenty big enough that you could really choke up and then use the jimping on the spine and do some finer tasks. I think it's a really nice all-around blade. The brown micarta and the multicam G10 is kind of an interesting combination, but I really like it. It's ready for a final polish and a final sharpening, and it will be up in the store this afternoon. Keep in mind, this is the first one that I've made of the deployment readiness blade, so whoever buys this will in fact have the first one. So that's pretty neat. I'm going to offer it without a sheath. If anybody would like a sheath, that's no problem. There will be an option for you to do that. Back here on the table we have an unfinished sergeant knife and an unfinished grunt, and here is the new deployment readiness blade, the DRB, and you can get an idea of just how fat this thing is and just how heavy it is. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or contact me on Facebook. Anyhow, guys, I appreciate you taking the time to watch the video and to give me your feedback. I think that this blade turned out really slick. So it'll be in the store. If anybody's interested, that's where you can find it. If anybody wants to order one, get a hold of me and we will work something out. This is a heavy chopper. Feels good in your hand, whether you're holding way back for a chopping action, if you're to the first finger groove and use the thumb ramp, or go clear up to the oversized choil and use the jimping, man, you can just get a really good grip. Anyhow, again, thanks guys for watching. I appreciate all of your comments, your views, and your support. Keep in mind, the only certainty in life is change. God bless y'all.